Welcome to me. Sounds a bit weird.
If someone were to ask you why you're so obsessed with stories and tales and reading, I guess the easy
Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. Welcome to my channel for all of you who have found yourself on here. I'm Maan. I wear glasses that piss me off when I do these videos because there's always this light reflecting in them and I feel like I look like an alien or something. So up they go. I have been reading quite a lot lately. I've been a busy boy. I'm writing lots. I'm working on writing projects outside of work. And I'm doing these videos for you guys as much as I can. In my last video, I discussed Hisham Mattar's book, The Return, his memoir. And I also talked about a radio show that I was a guest on where I discussed a few Arab books. I put the link below in that video. I'm gonna put the link below for that radio show down below this video because during my time there, I discussed 3 different books, and one of them is Fayez Mutabad of Amman, which I've already done a video about. The other one was Hisham Mattar's The Return, and the third book that I discussed on that radio show that I'll be discussing with you guys today is a brilliant book, one of the best that I've read this year, a modern, Tolstoyish, Dickensian type novel. So if those words mean anything to you, and if they strike a chord in your bibliography fantasy, then you'll want to stay on for this one. The book that I'm talking about is The President's Garden by Muhsin al-Ramli and published by Mackel Press, and it's translated from Arabic to English by Luke Leafgren. So Muhsin al-Ramli is an Iraqi writer and poet. He was born in Iraq, in the north of Iraq, I believe in 1967, and he has been living in Madrid, Spain since 1995. Some of his other well-known novels are Dates on My Fingers and The She-Wolf of Love and Books. He's also on Twitter, so do follow him, and he follows me back, so I guess we're kind of friends. Luke Leafgren, who is the translator of this book, is someone that I really wanted to look up because I was quite astonished while reading this book how well translated it was. It flowed perfectly and it felt like it was written in English. I didn't feel that clunkiness that sometimes I feel when I read English books that have been translated from Arabic. So Luke Leafgren is an assistant dean at Harvard University and he works as a translator, translating a lot of Arabic works from Arabic to English, obviously. He's also the inventor of the standing desk. Quite interesting. He sounds like a bit of a Renaissance man. To be completely honest, I have never heard of this book. I had heard of Muhsin al-Ramli in the past, but I'd never read any of his novels. And then one day, I was in the bookshop looking through books and I came across this amazing cover. And then I saw the name and I thought, okay, this is interesting. And I picked up the book, read the blurb, and I thought, this is definitely something that I want to read. I have not come across many books of fiction about Iraq written by Iraqis in English. So this was something I definitely wanted to read. I bought it straight away and I started reading it that day. The President's Garden is a book about the last 50 years of Iraqi history from the perspective of 3 men. It is a multi-generational story that takes place in more than one location in Iraq that takes you on a journey of the ordinary people, and I mean the real ordinary people of Iraq. I'm not talking about the upper middle class or the middle class, I'm talking about the villagers of Iraq. The novel begins on the 3rd day of Ramadan, which is the holy month of fasting for Muslims, in the village when somebody comes across 9 banana crates, each one with a severed head. Quite a gruesome beginning to the novel. One of those heads belongs to one of our protagonists, Ibrahim. From that point on, we see how other people in the village are affected by this news. Ibrahim's 2 best friends, Abdullah and Tariq, and his daughter Qisma. From the onset, we see a difference in all of these characters' reactions to the death of Ibrahim, and at the same time we're trying to figure out really what happened here and why is there 9 severed heads and why is Ibrahim's head chopped off when he sounds like, based on everybody else's opinion of him, a great and trustworthy and upstanding citizen. So the novel from that point goes back into time to the childhoods of these 3 men. Despite the fact that they all come from the same small, humble village, and despite the fact that they are best friends, they're almost like brothers, they are incredibly different from one another and have all taken different paths in life. Ibrahim, who I view as the protagonist of the novel, comes from a humble family. His father's a farmer. He's very quiet in nature. He's very kind with a very strong moral moral compass. While Tariq, on the other hand, has a slightly different family dynamic. His father is a sheikh, and I guess he gives more value towards education. So Tariq is the only one from the three friends who decides to go to university and become more educated and learn more about religion specifically. He's also the one who never ends up going to any of the wars or fighting in the wars because his education or his access to power and his access to specific kinds of people and friends and personal contacts help him to get out of that. The other character, who I think is one of my favorite characters, is called Abdullah, who was also nicknamed in the book Kafka, after the author Kafka, of course. Now, Abdullah is a really interesting character because he comes from a questionable parentage. Nobody knows who his actual parents are. He was found abandoned in the village, and a couple who can't have any children decide to adopt him. So this is common knowledge in the village, even to Abdullah himself. It's not like a huge secret. And despite the fact that he is friendly with everyone and he gets to have the same opportunities as everybody else, his parentage, or the mystery of his parentage, ends up inhibiting him from fulfilling all of the things that he wants in life. So as these three friends grow up, and as the village around them changes and becomes more modern, and as Iraq changes depending on the political climate, we really get a glimpse of not only their intimate personal lives, we get a glimpse or a kind of slice of a portrait of what is happening in Iraq without being bombarded with a lot of technical or political or historical facts, which I love. I'm a big fan of that when it comes to reading novels. It's interesting that Muhsin al-Ramli was able to write these very horrendous, violent details of both the Iraq-Iran war and the Kuwait war with such detail, but without keeping a distance, without blaming anyone. It was literally just the experiences of these men. And somehow within each situation or each scenario, we're given the perspective of the other. So there is no actual enemy. The enemy isn't a specific group of people. The enemy is war, the enemy is violence, the enemy is man's hunger for power. We also learn so much more about the generation before Ibrahim, Tariq and Abdullah and their fathers and the wars that they were involved in Iraq and outside of Iraq for Palestine. In conclusion, I definitely think you guys need to read this novel. I think it's definitely one of my favorite reads. It's 400 pages long, it is a little bit thick, but I got through it very quickly because it has a very strong narrative pull, the stakes are high, and time goes by very quickly. So that is it from me, guys. Have a great one. I'll see you soon. Ciao.
If someone were to ask me why I am so obsessed with stories and tales and reading, I guess the easy answer would be because I like them.
Also, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I demand it of you.